Welcome, AfterBuzzers. You're watching the After Show for Queen Sugar, Season 4, Episode 7 of Several Centuries, where tonight we talk Nova and Calvin Rekindled, Vi's Vandalism, and Charley Fights Back. Stay tuned for more.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Welcome, Queen Sugar fans. We are back, and is this the first time in a long time we've got a full panel?
We have a full panel.
Wow, this is awesome, guys.
It does.
So glad to join you guys. My name is Shaka Smith, joined by my lovely co-host, Miss Candi Marie, Dontaira Terrell,
Hey.
and of course, Miss Mbaeuze-Daniel. How you doing?
I'm here, guys. How are you? I'm excited.
Well, guys, we got a great episode. We're going to do our news, our predictions, our Big Easy scene, where we talk about a little bit of the flavor and the life and culture of Louisiana, and of course, our predictions. But let's get into our overall thoughts. What did you guys think about this episode? A lot went on. I'll just say that. What were your overall thoughts?
Heavy.
Yeah.
Like, if Thelma didn't do that little meditation before this, I think I would have been exploding.
We did that.
Energy
We did do that.
off the chain.
Yeah.
How about you, Dontaira?
Yeah, it was a lot. I feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders right now. I'm having gut feelings and just, wow.
I think like every single character in this episode can relate to what Darla said when she said, I'm not weak, I'm just upset. So that was like, for me, the underlining tone of what was going on. And I thought it was really powerful because especially in Vi, in just having that moment of like, okay, Hollywood is with his mom and Charley just, okay, I'm just going to figure out how I can help. I think a lot of people are going through a lot, as you were mentioning, as it is in real life right now. But it's that moment of like, can I be vulnerable and recognize that I'm upset, but this doesn't break me, you know?
Well, I'm at the point where I feel like they're about to be broken. That's where I was like, this feels like they're about to be broken. So I'm curious for the rest of the season, but we'll get right into it. Let's talk about the vandalism, of course, of Vi's prized pies. Again, we see some, I guess, some repercussions of being in this town and wanting to have a normal voice. What did you guys think about, Candi, about that vandalism and how Vi took it in stride as well?
When it happened, the first thing I thought to myself was, I knew that there was an underlining meaning behind it. I felt in my soul that it was the Landrys. I was like, this has something to do with the Landrys. They are literally doing this to get to Charley. I felt it. I was like, Charley is up against something huge, and they are going to pick apart every area of her heart, every area of her life, and they're going to attack it. That's the first thing I thought. Now, I was really upset with how she handled it because I felt like, I understand that Hollywood is with his mother, but that's still your husband. Yeah. That's still your partner. And when he finds out that she didn't call him, he's going to be upset.
Yeah.
I feel like that might also cause more strain on their relationship because that's definitely something that you don't keep from your husband. Like you said, despite of whether he's with his mother or not. Give me a heads up and give me the option or the opportunity to say, oh, no, you can handle that, or, you know what I'm saying, or let me come down there. Don't just decide for me.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely, because then it also goes back to how trust is gained and lost in the little moments. Because now it's like, okay, not only do you not want me to touch you, you also have a beginning to lose out on that emotional intimacy. But just to explain to people in case you didn't really understand, like fracking is just basically like that natural, it's a very controversial process of extracting natural gas. So, they pretty much just go into the rocks and fill it with like water and sand and chemicals to release that enclosed natural gas. And it's something that causes air pollution, chemical toxins. So it's something that a lot of cities suffer from, is that battle between like, are we going clean energy or are we going natural gas? So Charley is at the brink of something that is very, very powerful and also speaks to a global problem that's going on. So I love that the St. Thomas rep literally let her know, like, this is not just about you. Find the real reason this is happening and then we can talk. And that right there is the underlining tone of everything.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And I just want to piggyback on that. When you said Charley is up against a global problem, I feel like this episode touched on a global problem, just exposing corporate bullies and corporation and just monopolies with the oil and gas companies. So I thought that's a very great storyline because, like I said, you can relate to it. The smaller communities.
They live in the present very much so in Queen Sugar.
Definitely.
I thought what was interesting was Vi also addressing some of the PTSD she's had. What did you think, Dontaira, about her kind of confronting it but not confronting the PTSD?
I think it comes with stages. I think the fact that she's just aware and she is still learning how to handle everything. Her life was literally turned upside down. Yeah. So just the fact that she's able to acknowledge it is always the first step. Yeah. Now, if she takes the other necessary steps, that's up to her. Yeah. And that could be a debate in itself, but she is taking the first step. So I don't want to knock Aunt Vi down. Aunt Vi been through a lot, and I love me some Aunt Vi.
and I don't think, but I think I feel like all of you thought it was a mistake that she didn't contact Hollywood, but I feel like,
I agree with you.
Yeah, I feel like she wanted space, and space means figuring out myself and like getting to a point where whether she doesn't need to rely on a guy, like whatever it is she needs to feel right now to get back to her, she needs to have that space to do so.
And I agree with you completely. I understand why it's going to cause this ricochet of a problem, but I also, on the other hand, understand her intent. Though it might have been like guided by fear of what she doesn't want to like confront, it was still something that, we talked a lot last week about how like Hollywood is always there for Aunt Vi. It was her turn to try, and she tried to do it in a way that she was being there for him. But I think the reason he might be upset is because the undertone, the unpacking of that is that, were you really trying to be there for me, or were you just too afraid to confront what this is really about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dontaira, do you want to tag in, and I'll tag you after that?
Yeah, because I still disagree. I feel like, when you're trying to unpack stuff and, give someone space, that can mean, I just need 2 weeks, but nothing traumatic as someone breaking and entering and vandalizing everything that you've worked so hard for. I feel like it's steps, it's different issues, and that's not an issue that you would just sweep under the rug and not contact your husband about.
Exactly. And speaking of your husband, she is married now. This is not just Vi's problem. This is a traumatic experience that happened to Vi, but Vi is also Hollywood's wife. And Hollywood is her husband. So let's not forget that this is still a marriage. A marriage is still a partnership. And even though she's trying to deal with these things on her own, that still affects his life as well. Yeah. And I felt like I get what's happening. I understand she does need that space, but they still have a union. He said it himself, through better or worse.
Agree. And I feel like she's trying to unpack, but now she's packing more emotions back to it, because this is definitely going to cause a strain on their relationship. And I also feel like she's kind of pushing Hollywood away with doing stuff like this. Let go of the Superwoman cape. Yeah. And I feel like this was a specific instance where the Superwoman cape should have just been gone off.
Yeah, it's really about the trust, but I'm sure you'll get to it. But we saw somebody trying to have that moment of vulnerability, and it was received very wrong, in my opinion, in talking about Darla, but I'm sure we'll get there.
But yeah, I don't think it's even a moment of I don't even think it's a moment of vulnerability for Vi. It's a moment of almost a moment of self-healing for Vi, and so she has to have that space, and Hollywood understands her as a partner, says, like, give me this space for this situation. Now, I don't think you can take much more. I think if something else comes up and something,
and that's what I'm afraid of.
But this shouldn't be the something more, because he's agreed to give her the space.
Yeah. And not to mention, there's also therapy, and I think that therapy should happen. It should happen with Hollywood in the room, because, again, they are a married couple. So her issues become Hollywood's issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that there's a fine line. And I think that a lot of times we're like, we want people to be there through our problems. That's fine. But you also need to be a whole person. You need to be able to drop to the floor with your face on the ground and pick yourself up. I understand that you need to utilize the people who are around you, and to them that might seem like a breach of trust. But I think that this is an important time for Aunt Vi to remember and to reaffirm herself. I am still strong. It doesn't matter what Nova thinks about me. It doesn't matter what this person did, or Jimmy Dale, or how I was shooken up. I need to address this. It's a me problem. And I think that that's the number one step to her starting to heal.
And I do believe it's driven by insecurity. So
exactly.
So she's going to go through this one cycle of taking care of herself or whatever. Now if she continues down that path and doesn't get therapy, it's going to be an issue, because she's going to push him away when she doesn't need to. But for right now, when she needs this initial space, I think she needs to do that to kind of like get to a point where now she can go, let me get therapy before this gets out of hand.
You know what, guys? I think that we might just have to agree to disagree on this one.
I agree. I definitely understand your point.
Speaking somebody who's been married before, I personally feel like no. I think that this is something that they need to work through together. And I think the problem is that she is trying to do it alone. You are not alone in this marriage, Vi. You need to work through this with your husband. Your husband wants to show you that he's there, that he has your back, but you have to allow that to happen. And I understand she has her own healing process, and I understand she has PTSD, but through better or worse.
See, and I agree. I just think she needs you as a therapist after this week.
Yeah, but
But she
can also do like self-therapy and then couple therapy, because at the end of the day, this isn't me. I am the one who went through this process. I am the one who thought I was healed from this, and then all these wounds are snatched off of me, like the Band-Aid being ripped off. And I think that it's really important. She needs to work through it with Hollywood too, but I think we're also, just as human beings in general, there's something to be said about like someone saying something to you and you taking it as a negative, because at the end of the day, her not wanting to include Hollywood in this part, it has nothing to do with her lack of trust for Hollywood.
Exactly,
it's all about her.
Yeah.
So I think if Hollywood took this situation and just, okay, yes, we get it, but just like Shaka said, this is not enough for it to just begin the cycle of unraveling in their relationship.
But I feel like you never know what's enough for somebody else.
Thank you. And she took that away from Hollywood.
Yes.
She took that opportunity for him to be there for her. She took that away for him to say, you know what, baby, I got you. I got us. She took away the opportunity for him
What if
to
she
even
didn't
protect
want that,
She
though? What if she
literally
didn't want that?
But I feel like that's
But she
selfish.
didn't want it.
That is selfish.
that's
They're in a
okay.
partnership. They're in a marriage together. When two become one.
This one, we'll circle back. We gotta unpack this.
Well, I love this part of the storyline, because it did bring up so many other parts of this this episode. And the other part of the episode it brought up was the situation with Ignacio and Joaquin and the whole vandalism. And she did exhibit some really Aunt Vi. We got to see Aunt Vi's Aunt Vi for a moment. What did you guys think about that situation?
Listen, I thought she was gonna haul off and slap that little boy. I was like, oh Lord, don't put your hands on my butt. I think the way that she handled it was the way that I expected her to. Because at the end of the day, I understand they threatened you, but it was still your choice. And that's the perspective that I saw. And when they revealed that it was him, I knew it's crazy, but with everything that's happening, I'm like, the Landrys, it's all them. They just trying to get to Charley.
You know, initially, and this is probably me in my reactive state, I'm like, oh no, Charley, what you mean? You need to be at the police station. You know who the person is. Take those screenshots. But then after realizing he's a child, he was scared, he was fearful, and just the way they handled it, I'm like, wow, now that's some growth right there. The way the whole family handled it.
Yeah, I think they're really speaking to the situation in this country where we're looking at people not as people, and we have no empathy for situations. And so I love that they brought in that element where, like, look, we know he's done us wrong in the most worst way that we could envision, but we're looking at this family and what they've been through, and there's a better way to handle it where both sides are happy, but some lives aren't ruined.
And it also brings back the thing about, or the idea and the concept of being able to self-regulate within our communities and being able to deal out adequate punishment or repercussions within our communities. And I think that it's just understanding that he is just a pawn in this game. It's a bigger picture. But one thing I do want to name that I thought was really beautiful was the growth and between Aunt Vi and Charley. Just that moment in the shop where she kind of like leaned her head and was like, I got you, Aunt Vi. It's just like, when we first saw their relationship, there was a lot of unfinished business there in terms of just like trickling down from Charley's mother. But it's so powerful to see how they've grown in their relationship. I just had to like name that. I love it, especially now that where's Nova?
Great point.
Great point.
And for all of you that think we're making some great points, please join us and let us know. Thelma's got a couple words for you.
Absolutely. Hello, AfterBuzzers. You know, we're so excited and thankful that you can join us every week, but you don't only have to watch dramas. You can explore. See if you like the sci-fi channel, the comedy channel. We even have a reality channel. So go ahead and check us out. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, follow us on iTunes, Spotify. You can listen to our voices or watch our faces. So feel free to reach out and shout us out, and we'll be sure to do the same. So thank you for always making us the ESPN of TV sport.
Yes, we love you
TV
guys. Awesome. Thank you. We see some of you in the chat too. Thank you guys for joining us. But let's move on to, I think, the relationship we're all dying to talk about, and that is
Calvin.
And I did not expect Calvin to come back. I thought we'd always have the ghost of Calvin. I really didn't think he was going to come back.
You did not think that they were going to bring Calvin back,
especially with all this talk and all these blasts from the past.
Come on, that's exactly what we needed to see. Nova just living it up while the rest of her family is going through all the craziness that we can think of.
I didn't see that as living it up.
Well, she was happy, and I thought she was happy, and I thought that was too much. So I was like not happy.
I was not happy
I don't want
with her
you
being
smiling.
happy.
And she's on a press tour.
Okay.
So
You know what? I'm gonna let you guys go. You guys go ahead and say what you have to say.
So, just from our ventings, just, you know what, Nova, it's too early to be happy. You still need to feel the repercussions of what you've done to this family.
Well, is Nova having a hot girl summer or is she having a city girl summer? Because she keep going back and forth to the past. What is it? Which one she having?
When she got out of that black expedition, I was like, honey, this is a hot girl summer for Nova.
Okay, she having a hot girl summer.
You know what? I absolutely disagree. Let me tell you why. I got to come with a difference of opinion. I just feel like the beginning scene, she's coming out, she's all on top of the world, and then it hit you. We have more information about your family. Meaning you have now opened the chasm that your family can be pried into for public knowledge and for any kind of salacious activity, for TV ratings. Even without your permission, it was still brought up. Now you have lost the power. So for me, that was a big reality moment for Nova, because like, I hope you know, sis, that this is out of your hands now. Whatever they want to go on, discover about your family, when you shared that story about your father and those white men, it's going to come back around. Whatever, because now you have opened it up. And I feel like that was a realization for Nova. So for me, it wasn't anything happy-go-lucky, to be very honest. I think it was just the beginning to the end, and for her to start to realize like what she has done. Because on the flip side of that, to some extent, some of the things that she wanted to happen is happening, with like and Vibe confronting her demons and everybody confronting them demons. But you also now need to confront the repercussions of what you've done.
Okay, that's girl. You came out the gate. That's a great point.
I just, for me, when she saw Calvin, all that melted away. She is now in a place where a lot of the stuff she did, she's not even feeling now, because now she can see a potential future with this guy.
Now I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Now and y'all are gonna probably be like, what? You saying something nice to Nova? Now, what I wrote in my notes is it's about time she starts understanding the way her family feels and taking up for her family, because I agree with you. When they put her on air and they kind of like slid it in, she was shocked. But initially when they brought it to her, the first thing I thought was, please, Nova, please make the right choice. Please don't put your family's business that they don't even know on Front Street. And when she reacted the way she did, I was proud of her. I was like, there is some growth here. She's starting to understand her family. Telling her that they don't want to have nothing to do with her is starting to really affect her. Hopefully she will learn from this.
I don't think I necessarily called that growth. I just felt like she's not in charge of her narrative.
I don't think it was necessarily growth. I think it's like, I haven't proofread what you're going to say, so you can't surprise me. But but I will speak to your point. She did say weeks turn as the weeks turn into months. Like, I am starting to realize that maybe I've lost my family for good. And then Calvin was like, it doesn't work that way. Like, love doesn't just go away because you want it or something like that.
I think that she's starting to see that, though. I really do, and that's hard for me to say, because I have not been on Team Nova for a long time, but I really do think that it is starting to affect her. And I think it started to affect her when Octavia said what she said. I think in the last episode, that's when I started to slowly see, okay, well, maybe she is starting to get it.
She's lonely.
And I think she just sees herself as so different from Octavia. So I don't think she gets it in that sense. For me, she'll get it when she says, I regret doing this book. There's no positive thing that came from the book that was worth doing this to my family. And for me, that she has to hit that line.
Yeah,
and she hasn't hit that yet.
I agree 1,000%. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, but I just loved this Calvin coming in and what it could mean for Nova. And I love the way they actually kind of went about dissecting whether or not they should move forward. It wasn't the same sort of passionate love affair. What did you guys think about the responsible way or the way they're going about doing it this time?
I thought it was so important because she, we've always had passion, but for this time, it's like, let's make sure that our mind, our body, our spirits, our souls are aligned, because you can't be my partner. And I also love that Nova named, I think she said, I'm sorry for all the ways I've been punishing you when I've just been trying to punish myself. And I think that he also talked about how this relationship broke him. So I think they're coming from a place where they had to like step back, step away from it, reflect, grow, and now come back. So it can't just be about how passionate we are when you don't even stop to ask me about the things that really matter. When she was like, did you even ask me about the shooting? No, because you don't want to know. So I think that the way that they went about it was very mature, and just saying, not only am I willing, I want this. So I love that.
Yes, I love the open lines of communication. I felt like that conversation was very necessary, very important, and you could tell that they were emotionally, mentally, mature to take us to the next level. However, Mr. Calvin here. However, let me tell you what you're not gonna do. So he came in there and talking about a married man, talking about you broke me, this relationship broke me. Sir, you were married. You're the one who got away. Sir, once again, you were married. He just kept doing like all this other stuff and was like, you were the love of my life. Sir, you were married. You were married. Like I just couldn't get past all of that. For me, I felt like it was kind of selfish. Like, what do you mean? I'm the one who got away. You're married. Like, bye. I have to go. Like,
you know what? Can I just tag in and just say, "Sir, you were married"? Should we all say it in unison? Sir, you were married.
But to be fair, Nova knows a lot about that marriage and the way that marriage came about and how he felt obligated to be married. So being that he's now divorced, and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and he was like, "I'm not sorry." I think that also comes with knowing yourself and being able to, because a lot of times when we're making decisions, especially that kind of like life alter, we're always worried about how it's going to affect this person and that person. I think Calvin has known for a while. He just wasn't ready to deal with the fallout of it all.
Well, guess what? If he's known for a while, he should have gotten a divorce a while ago.
I agree with you.
I'm not taking none of this.
But I'm just saying, Nova. I say that to say that Nova can accept him saying you were the love of my life because she knows that that's the truth. Like, to be honest, I don't know.
This reminds me of what's that song, Shirley? When the y'all know what song I'm talking about? Yes.
But are you not a fan of this relationship?
Dun, 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 dun. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Are you Nova and Calvin fans?
No, not necessarily.
No.
Based on their history, it's a solid no for me.
Okay, the way you guys talked about Calvin before, I thought you guys were going to be here for this relationship.
No, I'm not here for this relationship. All I'm here for is Nova admitting to her sins. What you need to do is you need to ask the Lord for forgiveness for all of your sins, Nova.
And speaking
of your wrongdoing.
No, speaking of the sins, we see more, and I guess the more serious fallout with Darla, and that was just like sad. What did you guys think about Darla's handling of the situation? Does it kind of, we won't get to predictions quite yet, but does it bode well for the future, Dontaira?
I feel like corporate America and just work life is hard in general. So for them to do that to her, I feel like that's a form of bullying. When they left the book with the chapter on her desk.
Does that happen? Does that happen in corporate America? Does it happen?
Yes.
That was a little, extreme.
Lawsuit.
Yes. And did y'all see how her hands were shaking and she was trying to control herself? And I love the fact that she, confided in, is that her love interest, her partner? What do we call him? Boyfriend?
That was her
date?
That was her AA
sponsor.
He's not her sponsor. They're dating.
No, they
told her to get reach out to.
That was her sponsor initially, and then they started dating, and then she got a new sponsor.
I just love the fact that she's keeping these lines of communication open, and she's not, because sometimes you could shut down emotionally and go the opposite way, as we've seen her do in the past. So the fact that she's taking that step, the necessary steps to be like, meet me for coffee or wherever they are.
I wanted her to call the sponsor.
But that was really not. I thought it was. Okay, first, I think that she can't sue them without affirming the idea that is her, because her name was changed in the book. So that's also really tricky for her in terms of what's that fine balance between I'm just gonna step away from this because I can't control it, and affirming okay, yes, this is me by the way I react. You know what I'm saying?
But then placing a book that is bullying.
On the chapter.
Yeah, exactly. That was definitely a form of bullying. And then the whispering, that's definitely a form of bullying in the workplace.
I agree, but I'm saying because her name is not in the book as Darla, as the other people in the book. Nova changed her name and all of that. Though Darla does believe that anybody with half a brain will know that that's her, if she affirms that person, if she reacts in a way that affirms that is her in the book, she already kind of whatever quilt of defense that she had is already gone. So I think that it was something that needs to be handled in a different way. I do appreciate that she reached out to her boyfriend at the time, but I didn't appreciate the way he diverted her to her sponsor because, like she said, she wasn't weak in that moment. She was just upset. And the way that she handled it should show you how much strength that she has. But instead of just like being there and listening, it was a lot like, oh, I don't know if I can deal with this. This is like
I think she was upset. And I think she should be calling the sponsor in this vulnerable time.
No, she didn't need a sponsor. She needed a friend. And
That's
why
exactly
she called him.
exactly.
She needed somebody to console her. Like she needed somebody to be there. She needed somebody to just listen.
She wasn't saying like, "Oh, I'm about to take a drink."
Weak,
yeah,
just upset. She just needed to vent. That's it.
But
she wasn't.
I feel like that's the
moment.
first crack in.
You see, that's so unfair.
No,
like,
I don't
people
think
can be, somebody can be vulnerable without like, and I feel like it's okay to validate people's feelings. Doesn't mean, especially knowing it would be different if she was like, I think I'm gonna take a drink, because that's different. She was just talking to you about how she felt. I'm just so sad that Ralph Angel is in such a healthy relationship right now because Darla needs him.
You said you're sad?
I am a little sad.
Wait,
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, you said sad?
I am sad. I am
Honestly,
sad.
I really do think that their relationship has matured enough to the point that if she were to go to him, and that's what I was thinking, I really hope that she goes to Ralph Angel, because I think that he would be a friend in that moment to her.
Absolutely.
And I know that he would listen because he knows what she's been going through. He knows how heavy that this is bearing on her.
Is it fair for her to go to him when he's trying to start something new with somebody else?
Because they're still
they're
friends.
friends.
And this is still his child's mother at the end of the day. They're
Because if she's not
co-parenting.
healthy,
What do you mean?
she can't
Is
be healthy
it?
to
Yes.
parent the child.
Wait, Shaka, did you say is it?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? You just said is it? Like as in is it his child's mother?
No. I was talking about, is it fair? Like,
Yes.
yeah.
I'm saying for her to be
That's
a
fair.
whole and healthy, human being, that will translate into how she treats Blue and how she's parenting
Of course,
him.
but
So
is
of
Ralph
course,
Angel, as the single parent who's not married to her, responsible also for her mental and
it's
physical?
not about being
not
responsible. It's about
responsible.
him being a friend and a listening ear. He knows the effects that it can have. It can trigger down.
Not to mention their history. They've known each other since they were teenagers. The relationship
agree
that
with
they
it.
have, and that's where that vulnerability and that safe place. It's a safe place for her because they've seen each other at their lowest points, and that's exactly why she should go to him.
Darla has already admitted she was struggling. She said Charley knows I'm struggling, and and she's right. I mean, not Charley. No one knows I'm struggling, and she wrote this book. So she's already admitted that she's struggling, and now she gets this happening to her. And the book is about the time of her life when she was deep in the addiction.
When she says struggling, I feel like we all struggle in our daily lives.
Yes,
so
we
I don't
all
necessarily
struggle.
take that as,
I'm
a
on the
red
brink of a
flag.
breakdown.
Yes,
Like,
I'm about to
no.
go back to,
And when would she ever
Addiction?
earn? But
Yeah.
when would she ever earn being a whole person again? Just because she's addicted, she had an addiction doesn't mean she walks around with a scarlet A. That, oh my goodness, if something happens to her, she's this fragile human being. And I think that's what we got. At least that's what I got from that conversation with, and how she was feeling in that conversation with him.
Right,
I
and
get
I
addiction
repeat,
to-
I am not weak, just upset. She has
Period.
every right to
Because
be
you're an
upset.
addict doesn't mean you're weak. Because addiction to journey doesn't mean you're weak. Because you're in recovery doesn't mean you're weak. She's in
didn't
recovery,
say
and
that.
that's what. But you're saying.
I'm just restating what she said.
Yeah, but it's almost as if you're countering my thought that she's an addict and addiction is a part of her journey.
But you're taking that as a testament.
It's not a weakness. It's that when you get those moments, you got to call the sponsor. Not got to, but it's responsible to call the sponsor.
So all I'm saying is, how do you know that was a moment of sponsor needing? Because what I heard was like she's been saying that she's struggling. So all we're saying is like, just because she says she's struggling, that is not a direct correlation with I'm on the brink of backsliding. Saying I'm struggling could just be like, we're all struggling. We literally just had a whole moment to just be like, today was a day. But just because I'm just saying, if I had a backstory to me, would it be like, okay, like now it has to be a fragile? I don't think that that's fair. That's all I'm saying.
And all I'm gonna say is, this is how y'all know that this episode was
a lot.
damn good.
Nobody agrees on anything.
Mercury retrograde is real, even on Queen Sugar.
I'm going to say on Queen Sugar. But I feel like her love interest, I feel like he honestly didn't know what to say. I feel like he's struggling with himself. So he like, oh, well, this might be a red flag for you. You don't have to handle it differently. So I feel like the best thing for him to say was, maybe you should contact the sponsor.
Yeah.
And she took it, negatively, and he was just trying to be helpful in the best way that he knew how. Everyone's doing the best that they can.
Exactly.
And
And
providing
let's
advice.
not forget, there's still a very gray area between her and this man. I don't even necessarily think that we can say that this is her boyfriend. I
That's
feel
why I
like
was
there's been a
confused,
lot
yeah.
of miscommunication. I think they have a liking to each other, but I think that there's a big question mark on what exactly it is that they have. I think that they share, some similarities from their past experiences, and they can relate to each other. and she called him because he knows what it feels like to be an addict. She doesn't have to worry about being judged, so he was a safe place. So she thought.
And
But that, I think what she should have done, or maybe what her sponsor should have done, is help to cultivate a relationship with a sponsor was that safe place in those moments like that, because that is the most responsible thing to do. Maybe the sponsor wasn't because they were distant for whatever reason, but that's what it should be.
But I just want to argue, just to say, it was she didn't perceive it as I need a sponsor moment. She just needed a friend moment. And I think a lot of times when people come to us with things, there's this, and myself included, there's this need to have a response, to say something, to do something. Sometimes you just need to sit there and listen. So when she started talking, it was like, you can't, she rebutted and was like, actually, you have a best-selling book. Like, you can't speak on my situation, because though we've had similar experiences, our path is different. I just called you to listen. I don't need you to respond. I don't need you to fix my life. I don't need you to save me and be a superhero. Just listen.
And the sponsors equipped to really handle that.
Okay, Shaka. This is something we're going to have to agree to disagree on another topic. And that's okay, y'all.
One more point.
That's the whole role of the sponsor. That's what it's supposed to be.
No. That's the whole role of a therapist.
I'm letting it go, y'all.
I'm letting it go. Somebody and not be judged. So maybe next time she needs to just go to a therapist.
She thought she was calling somebody who she wouldn't be judged. That's the whole point, is that she thought she was calling somebody who is a friend and wouldn't judge her. And that's not what happened.
Now, you know who I appreciate that we call on is Charley. Charley is a great person to call on because Charley is always fighting back. Isn't that right? She's always fighting back. And I appreciate Charley's ability to fight back. Wouldn't you say?
Yes. What do you guys think about Charley's activism?
Well,
I'm like, Charley amazes me. Every episode, she kicks ass and she takes name. Like, whoo. I love me some Charley.
Love me some Charley. I appreciate Charley's attention to detail. I appreciate the way that she went in when she had that meeting with Jacob Boudreaux. And she, like I wrote in my notes, when he opened that folder and the sticky note said petty, it said, sorry, that's what I thought. When it said thanks, I was like, ooh, she's so petty. I just love how she handles situations. She just knows how to go in and get what she wants, and she knows how to deliver. I appreciate that.
And she has quick wit. Like, her wit, ooh. It's unmatched.
No. I love Charley. Charley's amazing, but I think that sometimes, we just have this, I don't know, I think we romanticize a lot of situations. That's in general. Charley has been through a lot. And first of all, when she went to go talk to the rep from St. Thomas, one of her weaknesses was slapped in her face. We don't know where you stand. You're there's so many things that have gone on. So Charley did have a path to infiltrate the Landrys, which did not work. Yeah. She didn't get sad. She reverted. Yeah. She tried to, let me be a stakeholder. That did not work. She just dissolved her relationship with them. So it's it's when things look good, it's always Charley. Yeah. But when she first got into this thing, it was what are you doing? So I feel like it's a dangerous line of just saying somebody's all this or all that, because at the end of the day, I love Charley. I think she's a superwoman, but I also think that the one thing that Charley does really well is reassess and act.
Yeah.
Okay, and you made some really, really great points, but I'm going to always be a cheerleader for Charley because she literally goes through a lot, but she's still only human. She's trying to figure it out. She's trying to do the best thing that she can for situations she's never dealt with before. Right. She's never been through half of these situations, so she's literally how can I use my smarts to try and figure this stuff out and get in on the inside, infiltrate the system, and that's what we see her doing. Does she have it all figured out? No, because she's a human being and she's going to make mistakes, she's going to screw up, and sometimes it's not going to always work in her favor.
Absolutely.
In many ways, do you think that's what Nova did? And that
No.
Nova did something that she thought would help her family, but it had all these repercussions.
For selfish reasons.
Charley's doing the same. Charley's doing the exact same thing, which maybe could be for selfish reasons. She's running for councilwoman. She's getting bricks thrown in, on Vice Place and vandalism. So there's all these repercussions to her being the sort of, crusader. And and really they could have given up the smell a long time ago. They could have sold the but she wanted to really go in and wanted to stake her claim. And that might be a selfish sort of thing where we get into the idea of I can change it. So is she acting like Nova?
I agree with you completely, because let's just backtrack. I hope everything that I just said didn't sound like anything but a cheer on for Charley. It's just in a way that it humanizes her a little bit, because when we put people on this like extreme pedestal, then like their fall falls all the way to the ground. And I think that when Charley first made that decision, she didn't tell anybody about it, and the way they found out about it was really shady. But they had that, it was the way that she handled it. It's like, am I going to allow people to feel this way and not be able to fully articulate why I'm doing it? Because that's when she first had that breach of trust with Micah. So it's like, now we're starting to have the more trust in where Charley's going. And of course she can make mistakes, but I just know that Charley is somebody who's able to stop and quickly self-reflect, think on the fly, and move from there.
And that may be the difference.
And that might be the difference between her and Nova, because Nova is still sitting in her mess, unaware of the odor that's around her. That's the way I would put it.
Okay.
Well, this was one heck of an episode. It's not ending so well, but we'll get to our predictions when we get to that part. But let's get to our news. We got a little bit of news, huh?
Yes.
AfterBuzz TV News.
As you guys can see, it's definitely heating up here on our panel. But we have another great topic to explore that Ava DuVernay explained. And I don't know, Thelma, I know you're rooting for Nova a little bit.
I'm not rooting for. Okay, here we
Ava
go.
DuVernay
We
did a
have to
good
be
job
all one
of
for another.
explaining Nova's wild actions. So on the grill, this is my source. It said earlier this month, Queen Sugar creator Ava DuVernay explained to a group of reporters why Nova seems determined to expose every single secret in the Bordelon family this season. Nova is safe from Nova's pen. Nobody is safe from Nova's pen. As y'all can see, Nova's definitely on the brain, except for Nova. Secrets from her late father, her Aunt Vi, her siblings, even her sweet little nephew Blue were all exposed in this book. Now, what Ava DuVernay said was that she freely admits that she and her family partly inspired the Queen Sugar characters, and that's where a lot of the storylines come from. Nova knows that secrets kill us. If she is going about it the right way, that's what we're really debating about. But the idea that we need to be free and untethered ourselves from things we're told can't be discussed in a family is really what they are trying to reveal. A lot of us, especially in the Black community, we have so many things. What happens in this house stays in this house, and that is what the conversation is that Ava DuVernay is trying to create. She's trying to expose a lot of these secrets and a lot of these skeletons, and that is why she is making Nova's actions so wild, so that we can talk about them the way that we're talking about right here on this panel.
Beautifully
and
said.
she is succeeding in doing that. Also, I want to point out that initially when this show first began, we were really excited because Ava DuVernay decided to select an all-female group of directors, and I just want to say I'm happy to say that 35 female directors have been used, 32 of which made their directorial debut right here on Queen Sugar.
Oh,
so
that's
that is
amazing.
phenomenal.
Yeah,
That
awesome.
is.
Thank you, Candi.
Shout
That
out
was
to Ava.
fantastic.
And we're going to give you a little Big Easy scene. Move on down.
Yes.
Dontaira.
So, what's a big easy scene? You like that, don't you? Yeah. We're going to go over a few words or phrases that mean something entirely different in New Orleans than what it would mean anyplace else.
Like crunk. Is that it?
That's Atlanta, isn't that? So we have mud bugs. And, so everywhere else, that's, I guess, the kind of bug that lives in the mud. Wouldn't you agree?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Well, in New Orleans, that means crawfish. So, bring what it means everywhere else, an organ in your head.
Oh.
In New Orleans, it means the best part of the crawfish. And snowball.
I'm sorry.
Snowball, like a snowball you'll throw, a ball of packed snow. It's a cone full of delicious shaved ice in New Orleans. Parish is a small religious district with its own church and pastor. In New Orleans, it's the same thing. It's equivalent to a county.
Oh, okay.
So they don't have counties, they have parishes. A locker. When you're in high school, junior high, that's where you put your coats and your belongings. It's a closet in New Orleans.
It's a closet, by the way. You didn't know. Now you know.
Po' boy.
I know a po' boy.
You know a po' boy?
Yeah, I know a po' boy.
Okay, so every place else people assume it's a shrimp sandwich. It's just another way to say a sub or a hoagie, but with better bread in New Orleans.
That was a shrimp sandwich.
So you did not know po' boy.
Now dressed. Now, when we say dressed, we
fly.
Yeah. In New Orleans, that means all the extra fixings on a po' boy. So you want that tomato, that lettuce, all of that.
That was like dressed.
Cher. Everyone familiar with Cher?
The singer?
I think.
Sharing? Are we? I don't know. I don't want to speak on it.
Yes.
Oh, Cher.
Cher.
Okay.
Yeah, in New Orleans, it's a term of endearment, like hun or dear.
Oh, okay. Cherie.
Yes.
Oh, mon chéri. Yeah, because it's French.
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
The influence of France, absolutely.
Shotgun. You know.
No.
Riding shotgun.
Quickly.
Look, riding shotgun, a type of gun.
Wedding, yeah.
Shotgun wedding. It's a narrow rectangular style of house without hallways in New Orleans. So a shotgun house?
Wow.
Anybody?
Okay.
Learning so much today, y'all.
And barbecue shrimp made with barbecue sauce, technically. In New Orleans, it's nothing to do with barbecue. It's shrimp with the heads and tails on it in a butter sauce.
Oh, okay.
So those are just
Let's get some barbecue shrimp and brain po' boys.
Yes.
Throw them in the locker.
One more. Gout.
Gout.
Like
Disease?
You know, I would think that too. But in New Orleans, when your grandma tries to get you to have a little taste or sip of something, she asks you if you want a gout, but the T is silent. So gout?
Oh.
Listen, I want a gout of tequila when I leave here.
Oh man, well, we gotta wrap up, guys. We got our quick predictions. One prediction each person, rapid fire. Let's go.
Believe it or not, I can tell you, mark this day. What's today? The 31st of July 2019, Darla and Ralph Angel are getting back together. Mark my words, it's happening.
Negative. Nova's coming back next week for some forgiveness.
Desha got something to say about that, Thelma. I'm sorry, but the way that Desha kissed Ralph Angel, I felt that in my soul. Ooh, and then I'm sorry, but her character, a storyline. Ooh, Lord, I'm here for all of that.
And lastly, I think Darla is going to use. Anyway, so
I'm sorry.
Well,
You know
thank
what,
you guys. We are out of time.
Somebody come for Shaka.
Thank you guys
Please
for
get
joining.
him. Get him.
My name is Shaka Smith. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Shaka Strong.
Hey, it's your girl, Miss Candi Marie, and you can find me on Instagram at Miss Candi Marie and on Twitter at Sweet Kendori TV.
And it's Dontaira Terrell. You can find me on all social media at Dontaira Terrell.
Hey guys, it's Thelma. You can find me on social media at Thelma on Instagram.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
Not as Thelma.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its own.